Hey guys, Rich here. I'm just making a quick video on how to adjust and set up the cams for the AMF 8270 or 8290 XL automatic pin spotters. These adjustments for these cams, like I said, these proceed to the AMF 8270 or the early 8290 pin spotters that have mechanical switch cams like this and this setup here. So that's what these adjustments are for that I'm going to be showing you today. Okay, to start off, just take note that this cam right here is the SA cam, that's the SB cam, and that's the SC cam. Now the adjustments for this and all this is the same on the table. You have TA1, TA2, TB. So the TB switch and the SC switch on the sweep are the interlock switches. So both of these are, pushed up. You have an interlock where something where the sweep would be under the table or something like that. Anyway, to adjust these cams, to start, you want to do is just these nuts right here, these little jam nuts on the studs here. You want to loosen both of them, just a little bit. Don't loosen them like that. Just a little bit, just to where I can move the cam by just lightly tapping on it with the rubber mallet. You could use a hammer too, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you do, you have to be very gentle. What you want to do to start is the SC and SB cam, which is one. This is one piece. The SA is separate cam, unless you have real old machines. Then this is one, and I believe that's only on the table, not on the sweep. But anyway, you want this hump to be, really can't see that good. You want this hump up here, the high spot of the cam, to be parallel with the pin deck. So you want to adjust it to there, and then you just want to snug this down. Don't tighten it, just snug it to where it really can't move. And then this one right here, if you could see the high spot, you want the high spot of this cam lever in line with this switch right here. So if you look right here, right where this hole is, where this hump is right here, you want this to be about there, right where my finger is. You could just look at that right there. See that little piece right there that holds the little bearing in there that spins on the switch. You want that about in line with there. So once you get those both in line like where they need to be, snug this one down as well. After you're done with that, you can move on to adjusting these levers here. So now what you want to do is loosen this jam nut right here. You want to use a 7/16 open-end wrench because you want to hold a flathead screwdriver in there after you loosen this jam nut. Pertains to all three of these here. When you turn this screw in or out, that will move this switch here in or out. You want to adjust this to where you have about 1/8 of an inch gap right there. They make a gauge you could actually stick in here. I don't use it. I've done this so many times now, I just kind of eyeball it. But if you want to really gauge it, if you do not have the gauge, you can take 1/8 of an inch Allen and just stick it in there like that. And you should be able to, hold on, I'm trying to get this. You should be able to just fit it in there. See how I could just fit that in there? That's what you want. So once you just fit that in there like that, that's about where this cam lever should be adjusted. So after you do that one, obviously tighten this up here. Then what you want to do is adjust these other two to where they're perfectly even with this one. Okay. When you're done with that, now you can actually run the machine and see how everything runs. Obviously, I did this one a long time ago. I just want to let you guys know that these cams on these things, when I came in here, I don't know who messed with them, but a lot of them were way off. So I had to go through and readjust almost every single one in the house. Anyway, getting back to it, what you want to do is note the operation of the sweep. Now remember, these are just snug. You don't have these tightened down yet, and I'm going to explain why in a second. So I'm going to cycle the machine right now. Now you note how the sweep stops every time. Okay. Now obviously this one is adjusted correctly, but if it wasn't and you noticed the sweep was stopping a little bit early and jerking down, that means I'm going to start it. obviously, if I want the sweep to start or stop a little bit earlier, that would be me moving this lever up or down a little bit. Okay, that's at first guard. Now at second guard, it would be the same thing. So obviously, if the sweep was stopping here, like this, and then jerking up, I would want to move this hump right here, this cam, back a little bit, like this. Or if it was stopping too late and jerking up here, you want to move this down a little bit. And vice versa goes for the SC cam right here. So you see, because look what happens. Right when it hits the hump, see, all I got to do is just get it right on the hump, and eventually, just like all of it, starts. So you just want to really do very fine-tuning adjustments with these. Just like I said, what I do is I just tap them like this with a rubber mallet just to get them up or down or whatever I need to do. So that is how you adjust these cams here. Same goes for the table. The table is more of just kind of setting it up like this and just watching the timing of when it starts and stops, when it goes up and down. That's how I always done it, versus the sweep, and as long as the timing looks good, I leave it alone. And now sometimes if you have older machines, or you have, depending on what type of front end motors you have, these are Franklin's here, you know, sometimes you may get a little play in the gearbox. If you have a slight drift and you know it's because there's a little bit of playment in the gearbox, the SC cam lever here, sometimes I like to move them out a little bit, and all that's going to do is when the sweep and table come down, you know, into each other for an interlock, it's only going to bring them a little closer together. It's not going to really make a big deal, but obviously if I move this lever out a little bit and I was still having problems with drifting, then you got problems, and I would definitely remove the gearbox and probably swap it out for another one or something like that. Or say if the table was drifting a little bit, I would put it on a sweep first and see if it still drifts or everything and do this. I would not do that on the table. I mean, you can, I'm sure it will work, I just never have done that before. But like I said, I mean, you're just probably moving this switch out maybe a 1/16 of an inch more. And remember, that's the interlock switch. So the interlock switch on the table is TB, the interlock switch on the sweep is SC. So anyway, you know, when I run the machine, another thing I like to do is I either put my foot down or my hand or something. I put something here and I watch the sweep stop and make sure it stops in the same spot every time I run it. That's something I like to do. Another critical thing is, remember, these cams move on you. So just make sure that they're perfectly in line with each switch, you know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, you know, nothing's off or nothing like that. So what I do is, like I said, when I run the machine, I'll show you right now. I use your foot, you can use anything. What I do is, look, you know, obviously I put my foot close to the sweep, but, you know, I mean, you see how it's pretty much stopping in the same spot every time. So if I run the sweep again, it's gonna, you know, it should be doing that every time. If it's not stopping like that every time, you have something wrong. Then when I'm done adjusting the front to where I want it, then I go into the back, and I just watch the sweep from back here. And I do the same thing here. I make sure that it stops in the same spot every time. You just watch it. You know, you just cycle the machine on continuous cycle or whatever, and just watch it on spotting, you know, and respotting, and just make sure it stops the same way every single time. So anyway, you know, obviously if you watch this one, it's adjusted correctly, but, you know, you shouldn't really have, you know, the sweep coming up a little bit or stopping early or too late or whatever. But that's within just moving these switches up, or moving these cam humps up or down. Very little fine-tuning adjustments, just how you get the sweep to run perfectly, like this. So anyway, that's how these adjustments are done. So any questions or anything, just let me know. I'll try to answer as best I can. Another important thing is, obviously, you have to make sure these micro switches back here are good, or not, or make sure that the wires that connect to the switches, you know, I try to go through and clean and make sure they're all contact, you know, the little contacts the wires connect to, make sure you have all those cleaned up nice and everything too. That's another thing you may want to check if you're ever having a random issue where a sweep's not stopping or starting exactly perfect. Now, just take note also that, you know, I mean, if you have a gearbox on here that's a little iffy, if the sweep comes up and it, you know, has a little jerk in it, but it stops, you know, I mean, I wouldn't really worry about that too much. But if it's obviously really doing it or it's causing an issue, then I would do something about it. But, you know, like I said, if you watch here, so, you know, another thing, just you see if the hump is about right there. Usually that's where it should be when the sweep is at first guard. And, you know, depending on if you needed the sweep to start earlier, you would move this down a little bit. Or if you wanted it to come down and start a little bit later, you'd move this up. Vice versa goes for this one right here. And remember, these two, you know, SB and SC is one cam, SA is a separate cam. So just remember that when you adjust these. Well, anyway, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, hope you guys all enjoyed this video and learned something new. Yeah. Alright, cool.